Ernesto hits the Caribbean. The storm now prompting hurricane watches throughout the Caribbean, including the Virgin Islands, where it's expected to intensify as heavy rain, strong winds, and in some cases, coastal flooding hitting the region. The storm now closing in on Puerto Rico. The governor there now urging people to stay home as fears settle in. We're tracking the storm. Plus,
do you have the understanding that Iran could cease or stop doing an action if a ceasefire deal was possible?
That's my expectation, but we'll see.
The high-wire diplomacy at work behind the scenes, working to hammer out a deal as the world awaits a possible Iran retaliation in the Israel-Hamas war. We'll bring you the developments on the ground. And
if I win every race this year, win every race next year, then there's no reason why I could be in Formula One.
She could be driving the future of motorsports. In tonight's Prime Focus, we go behind the scenes of the F1 Academy, training future female drivers ready to go behind the wheel and take on the world of racing. Good evening, everyone. I'm Juju Chang in for Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including the wildfires tearing through parts of Greece, threatening suburbs outside of Athens, forcing tens of thousands to flee. Plus, the latest state to allow abortion on the ballot this November, and how could this issue help decide who wins the White House in just 83 days? And the popular gym chain that just filed for bankruptcy, and why it's a sign the post-pandemic fitness world is facing rough times, when we take a look by the numbers. But we begin with Ernesto gaining strength in the Caribbean tonight, and just a matter of hours until it reaches Puerto Rico. At this hour, Ernesto is moving with sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, expected to reach Puerto Rico in a matter of hours. The governor there has activated the National Guard and warned everyone to shelter inside until the storm passes. And tonight, already there are major concerns for Puerto Rico's power grid. It's been almost 7 years since Category 5 Hurricane Maria ravaged the island, and rebuilding is still very much a work in progress. We are standing by to talk with an organization committed to recovery and resiliency. So what kind of hit will Puerto Rico take, and will Ernesto impact the mainland? And we begin with ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z with the timing and the track of the storm. Hey, Ginger.
Hey there, Juju. Max sustained winds with this thing's already 60 miles per hour, so we do see a hurricane by early tomorrow, but it's going to all move really quickly. Through the Caribbean, 3 to 6 inches of rain, locally up to 10 inches. It's going to pass north and east of the east side of Puerto Rico, so the heaviest rain will still come through, and they've got mountains there, so that could cause flash flooding. It'll become that hurricane, and then it will turn more northerly. We're going to watch it still kind of moving quickly toward Bermuda for the weekend. Looks like Saturday would be the biggest impacts there, and it will stay away from U.S. mainland. If I were in Nova Scotia, I'd watch it carefully, but here it's going to be all about the high surf and the rip current risk through the weekend and early next week. That storm is 10 days, or tropical storm Ernesto, formed 10 days ahead of schedule from when we usually see our 5th named storm of the season, Juju.
And Ginger, the National Hurricane Center just updated their forecast last week of the number of storms this season expected to be well above average. Can you give us a sense of why that is?
Yes, and they've had that out, but they updated it and basically kept it the same, saying we're going to have a hyperactive season. We've known this, number one, because we're coming off the hangover of an El Nino. The water temperatures around the world, but in the Atlantic too, are well above average. But also coming off of an El Nino into this neutral phase and going into La Nina that's expected in the mid-month, that is a big factor when it comes to hurricanes because it cuts down on wind shear. Wind shear kind of fights like a ninja. It will fight off the top levels of a hurricane. It'll stop development and stop its forward motion. We don't have as much of that. And so it looks like really good conditions for hurricanes to not only develop, but to sustain themselves across the Atlantic, Juju. So we do expect an extremely busy time. And climatologically, that's the time we're in. We're in the next 5-6 weeks of the busiest, usually in the season.
A busy season for you, Ginger Z. Thanks so much. And to dig into this issue, joining us now is Arturo Masul-Dea, who is the executive director of Casa Pueblo. Arturo, this is yet another hurricane season and yet another year discussing concerns over Puerto Rico's power grid. Now, your organization's mission is literally to empower the people on the island to take energy measures into their own hands. But before we get to that, how are you prepping for this storm?
We're ready. I think Puerto Ricans are ready. We have that culture of confronting natural events like storms and hurricanes. What we're concerned is about the aftermath. There's a lack of confidence that the utilities, public and private, and the government will comply and respond properly to the challenges that will be soon confronting with Ernesto and perhaps with future storms.
The impact continues, but given your leadership in founding Casa Pueblo and for spearheading that community aid response after Hurricane Maria, how is the push towards renewable energy benefiting your community in the face of this new storm, Tropical Storm Ernesto?
We have been promoting decentralized energy generation with solar to produce power at the point of consumption, to reduce the vulnerability of transmission and distribution lines. And we were ready for Hurricane Maria, and we're ready for Ernesto, and we have been helping the community. We have installed solar system for people who need medical attention, over 200 installations, 3 elderly homes, the solar cinema, the radio station, the transmission tower for the radio station is also running on solar power and energy storage. And we saw 2 years ago, Hurricane Fiona, pretty much like Ernesto, going through the southwest of the island. It was a storm, and then it became a hurricane. And we were in our town without power for 9 days. I mean, it should not be that way. And I think the solutions are out there, and we have proven that this is the right path for climate adaptation, for energy security, and democratizing power generation in Puerto Rico.
And that's for renewable energy progress. But how is the government's focus on privatization affecting Puerto Rico's resilience in the face of these storms?
That's the issue. Top down, what we have seen is the privatization of the transmission and distribution lines. What we have seen is privatization of the power generation with fossil fuels. They want to perpetuate that, and there's a conflict because they want to keep their business. And as people are producing their own power, their business model gets reduced. So that is a confrontation, the battle. The private company, the government, some of them, they don't want net metering policies in Puerto Rico, which is actually promoting more these solar systems installed in Puerto Rico. So that battle for which energy model we're going to be building for the future is happening right now. But we know that the future is for clean energy sources, to embrace local resources like solar power, and to build energy independence for the island.
And so with that in mind, how would you say the community's ability to manage its own energy made a difference during Ernesto compared to past storms like Maria?
We have seen that people who require dialysis therapy during any storm, they have the capacity to manage their own resource and fulfill their needs. Food security, we need to refrigerate a lot of food and meals. Power is important for that, for work, for productive activities. I mean, as you are embracing your own solar system, your own power utility, it's very liberating. You can confront poverty because you're generating wealth associated to power generation. I mean, you change everything as you break that dependency upon the centralized system. That's the path to go, and we have seen the positive impacts on our community.
Well, Arturo, we hope that you and everyone in Puerto Rico stays safe during this storm. Thanks for joining us. Arturo Masul-Dea, Executive Director of Casa Pueblo. Thanks again. Stay safe.
Cool.
And now to the race for the White House. Just 84 days to Election Day. Tonight, Vice President Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, responding to attacks from the Trump campaign, defending his military record and taking aim at President Trump. For his conversation with Elon Musk and what Trump said about workers tonight, the UAW is hitting Trump and Musk with federal labor charges. Following all of it, ABC's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, tonight, in his first solo appearance on the campaign trail, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz defending himself against Republican attacks on his 24-year record of military service.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country.
Walz spent 24 years in the Minnesota National Guard while teaching and coaching football, leaving to run for Congress months before his unit deployed to Iraq. In the House, he was the top Democrat on the Veteran Affairs Committee. But since joining the Harris ticket, he has been under relentless attack from Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who has seized on this moment.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Vance accusing Walz of lying about his service.
And he has not spent a day in a combat zone. What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Today, Walz pushing back at Vance, who served as a Marine in Iraq himself, but didn't see active fighting.
And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
Walz today addressing the convention of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, saying Trump and Vance aren't looking out for union workers.
The only thing those two guys knows about working people is how to work to take advantage of them. That's what they know about it.
Seizing on Trump's comments about striking workers in a conversation with billionaire Elon Musk on his social media platform X. Trump praising Musk for not giving in to workers' demands.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
Tonight, the head of the United Auto Workers Union out with a blistering statement, insisting when we say Donald Trump is a scab, this is what we mean. When we say Trump stands against everything our union stands for, this is what we mean. Walz echoing those words.
That he called him a scab, just to be clear. That's not name-calling, it's an observation and fact, just to be clear. So,
the UAW has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, noting she has walked the picket line with striking workers. And tonight, the union filing federal labor charges against Trump and Musk with the National Labor Relations Board, saying they advocated for the illegal firing of striking workers.
Interesting developments there, and Rachel Scott joins us now. Rachel, the Democratic National Convention is now just days away, and Vice President Harris is preparing to unveil her plans for handling the economy.
Exactly, Juju. And look, Vice President Kamala Harris has only been in this race for 3 weeks now. And so she will start to roll out her policy proposals. We are told she is going to start with the economy this week. Her campaign says that she wants to lower costs for middle-class families, take on corporate price gouging. She's also promised to eliminate taxes on tips. That's something Donald Trump has been saying now for weeks. He'll be out on the campaign trail in North Carolina talking about the economy tomorrow, Juju.
And we look forward to seeing you in Chicago as well. Thanks, Rachel. And in other political news, abortion access will officially be on the ballot in Arizona this November. The Arizona Secretary of State's office said Monday that it had certified over 500,000 signatures, far above the required number to put the question before voters. If passed, the measure would establish a fundamental right to an abortion in the state of Arizona, protecting access to abortion up until viability, which is generally around 24 weeks. Arizona law currently bans abortions after 15 weeks and includes exceptions in cases of medical emergencies. Turning overseas now, Israel is on high alert tonight, bracing for an attack from Iran and its allies that could come at any time. The U.S. is sending senior advisors to the region to discuss security and urge Israel and Hamas to negotiate. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burrage is in Tel Aviv tonight.
Tonight, Israel on high alert, trading attacks with Hezbollah across the Israeli-Lebanese border as they brace for what US officials say could be a more significant Iranian-led attack on Israel this week. Tonight, President Biden asked whether Iran might hold off its attack if a Gaza ceasefire deal is possible.
That's my expectation, but we'll see.
Today, Biden's Middle East envoy, Brett McGurk, rushing to Egypt in an 11th hour push to get Hamas and Israel to attend talks in just 2 days' time. But a US official saying the odds of that happening appear to be low after Hamas indicated it would only accept a previous framework deal on the table months ago. And tonight, Iran rejecting the notion it shouldn't retaliate for the assassination of a top Hamas leader in Tehran, calling a plea from the UK, France and Germany excessive. If talks were to break down, the White House saying they're ready to defend Israel. The Pentagon deploying 2 aircraft carrier strike groups and a missile-guided submarine into the Middle East.
The bottom line is, I'm not going to speculate or try to guess when they might attack, other than to say we need to take it seriously, and we are doing that. And so we will be prepared and are prepared.
And Tom Sufi-Burge joins us now from Tel Aviv. And Tom, against this tense backdrop, what's the latest on U.S. weapons sales to Israel?
Yeah, Juju, the State Department tonight approving the sale of $20 billion worth of weaponry to Israel, including advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, which could be used to thwart a potential aerial assault. Juju?
Tom, the drama continues. Thank you. And now to the war in Ukraine. President Zelensky is saying Ukraine continues to advance inside Russian territory and is now controlling 74 Russian settlements. And tonight, new images believed to show Russian troops now being held as prisoners. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pennell has the story.
Tonight, Ukraine pushing deeper into Russia, taking prisoners on the way, here bound and blindfolded. Some Russian soldiers seen surrendering by the roadside as Ukraine sends more troops across the border. The Kremlin caught totally off guard by the audacious operation, but now saying it's stopped to further advance. The Ukrainian offensive does appear to have slowed, but not stopped. Tonight, President Zelensky saying despite the difficult and intense battles, our forces continue to advance and our state's exchange fund is growing, referring to plans to capture Russian land and trade it for Ukrainian territory. Zelensky claiming more than 70 settlements now under their control, but some of these likely very small. And tonight, President Biden weighing in for the first time on the Ukrainian assault.
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin.
And Ian Pennell joins us now. Ian, what moves are we seeing Russia making now?
I mean, Russia's really having to play defense. It was caught totally off guard, I think, by this Ukrainian advance, this incursion into Russia. It was held under secrets. Nobody really knew it was happening until they'd already crossed over the border. Russia's appearing to pull a small number of its troops back from Ukraine to try and defend the homeland. There's a suggestion tonight from the Lithuanians that perhaps some of the Russian troops based in Kaliningrad, which is this Russian enclave on the Baltic, that they're also pulling troops from there to try and defend Russia, where the Ukrainians have come in. However, I think although it's facing a major challenge, Russia remains strong and it's still advancing on the front lines in eastern Ukraine. Juju?
Ian Pennell, thank you. And in the UK, police are on high alert as Taylor Swift prepares to resume her European concert tour in London after that foiled terror plot. She's scheduled to perform at Wembley Stadium on Thursday night, her first time back on the stage since that plot was uncovered in Vienna. Huge crowds are expected, but police say the thousands of fans who typically show up at her venues without tickets just to listen will not be allowed outside of that stadium. And to Greece now, where wind-driven wildfires threaten homes in the suburbs of Athens. Some 30,000 people have now fled their homes as crews from several nations help battle the flames, and one person has been found dead. ABC's Britt Clennett is in Greece tonight.
Tonight, one person is dead and tens of thousands have been forced to flee. Greece's largest wildfire this year raging over the last 48 hours, just miles from the centre of Athens. The fires breaking out Sunday, fierce winds quickly fanning the flames up to 80 feet high.
Firefighters now working to put out the flames in this building in this Athens suburb. You can feel the fire, the heat radiating from this building. It stings the eyes and there's smoke that's blanketed the area.
Harrowing video showing police carrying the elderly to safety. Several hospitals had to be evacuated.
You can see the impact of these fires in this residential area, scorching homes, destroying buildings in one of the hottest, driest summers on record.
Authorities finding the body of a woman inside a building who they believe was trapped by the fire. Smoke looming over those famed archaeological sites that draw in so many tourists each year, like this group from Boulder, Colorado.
We found out about the fires when we landed.
It was definitely scary landing here and that being like the first thing that we saw.
Yeah.
And Britt Clennett joins us now from Greece. And Britt, where does the battle against this blaze stand now?
Juju, authorities are saying there are no active fires, but firefighters do remain on high alert as the winds could pick up and the hot and dry conditions could continue, meaning that there could be fires starting up again later this summer. Juju?
Brett Clement, thank you. And back here in the U.S., there's a desperate search underway in North Carolina for a convicted murderer who escaped custody outside a hospital where he'd been taken for treatment. Ramon Alston is serving a life sentence for the shooting death of a 1-year-old on Christmas Day in 2015. ABC's Faith Abube has the details.
Tonight, a statewide emergency alert issued in North Carolina after a convicted murderer escaped from armed guards in a hospital parking lot.
An inmate has just run from the hospital.
30-year-old Ramon Alston, described as dangerous with a violent criminal past. Federal and local agencies, including the U.S. Marshal Fugitive Task Force, seen urgently searching the Hillsborough area.
He's either within a 5-mile radius or he's in the rest of the world, and we're searching both.
Authorities say 2 prison guards were transporting Alston to a medical appointment at the hospital this morning when he broke free in the parking lot, pushing down at least 1 guard, then running into a densely wooded area, still handcuffed with a waist chain, but without the leg restraints he was put in before the ride.
They're much like a handcuff, puts pressure against your Achilles, which slows you a good bit. It's uncomfortable. How he got them off, I don't know.
The convicted felon was serving a life sentence for fatally shooting a 1-year-old, Malia Williams, on Christmas Day in 2015. The child struck while in her mother's arms outside.
And Faith Abube joins us now. Faith, what are officials saying about the law enforcement officers who were assigned to watch Alston?
Well, Juju, the Orange County Sheriff says the armed guards who were transporting Alston did not have an opportunity to draw their weapons. As standard procedure, their conduct is now being investigated as part of this case. Juju.
Faith Abube, thank you. Ford and Mazda are now warning the owners of almost 500,000 older vehicles not to drive them as they have dangerous Takata airbag inflators. The warning covers Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles from 2004 through 2014 and Mazdas from 2003 through 2015. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the inflators can explode with too much force in a crash, blowing apart a metal canister and shooting fragments that can severely injure or kill people. The government says 27 people have been killed in the U.S. by faulty Takata inflators. Well, President Biden, along with First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, announced major grants for his cancer moonshot, his very personal mission to cut cancer deaths in half within 25 years. Here's our senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, President Biden awarding $150 million in research funds as part of his Cancer Moonshot, an initiative that's deeply personal and one he hopes will be a lasting part of his legacy.
Folks, it's fair to say one of the most devastating words anyone can hear, and it's not hyperbole, is cancer.
Biden lost his beloved son Beau to brain cancer in 2015. Launching its Cancer Moonshot as vice president, then relaunching it in 2022 as president. His goal, cutting cancer death rates by half in 25 years, which would prevent more than 4 million deaths from cancer in this country by 2047.
So what they do is
the president traveling to New Orleans with the First Lady today, announcing funding for 8 research groups across the country, all working to help surgeons more precisely remove tumors from those with cancer.
We know all families touched by cancers are in a race against time. It's all part of our goal of our Cancer Moonshot, to end cancer as we know it.
In the final months of his presidency, Biden is prioritizing issues that are near and dear to his heart. That also includes lowering costs for Americans. That will be the focus of his event later this week with Vice President Harris, their first event together since President Biden dropped out of this race. Juju.
Our thanks to Selena Wang at the White House. Still much more to get to here on Prime. The story of a couple who paid off more than $50,000 in debt in just a few months. How they did it and how others can do the same. But next in our Prime Focus tonight, the female drivers making their way into Formula One. How they are paving the way for the next generation.
Less than 10% of all female participants in motorsport are female. Motorsport is one of the world's only mixed-gender sports. There are very few sports in the world where men and women compete on equal footing, so it has this massive opportunity that it is sort of missing.
Baywatch is a fantasy.
Baywatch was sexy. Baywatch was the #1 show in the world. It was hot. When you hear that theme song,
I had no idea how much fun I was going to have.
It was addicting. People were just hungry. They were eating that stuff alive.
it was a wild time, and I was a wild chick.
Everyone tuned in to watch the show because you knew you were going to see someone sexy.
I mean, everybody was pretty.
Not just white women can look hot and sexy. Anyone can do it.
Jason Momoa exploded off of Baywatch.
Carmen was a bombshell who had something to say.
Pamela Anderson was an icon.
Pamela was this sweet girl from Canada who came to get the American dream.
I'm really proud of everything I've done. Almost.
Baywatch was a whirlwind of epic highs and bitter lows.
It was a lot of pressure. They had to wear next to nothing. You want me to wear this? What?
He with the best abs wins, or she with the best boobs win.
They just wanted to put you under a microscope and see where your flaws are.
Everybody was disposable, and if you didn't fit into their brand, you were gone.
Baywatch empowered me. Every now and then it hurt me. But so do the people and the things we love. I need to take a break, okay?
Greed and lust, fame.
It's crazy.
It changed everything.
It was about pushing the envelope.
Iconic. So hot.
Everyone likes to watch sexy things.
They call him the Beauty Queen Killer. He's targeting young women in malls.
I am single. I want to enjoy the company of a member of women.
He tortured me.
How did she survive 9 days of terror?
The word accomplice came up. Nobody knows the real story.
The Beauty Queen Killer. Only on Hulu.
Friday night, the 2020 true crime, Pamela Smart, the infamous case that had everyone talking.
It has sex, betrayal, and most importantly, murder.
A beautiful 22-year-old woman having an affair with a 16-year-old boy.
She told him that the only way we can be together is if you kill my husband.
And now, after 34 years in prison and a dramatic plea for a last chance at freedom, her emotional, stunning new admission. 2020, Friday night on ABC.
Welcome back. Formula One racing has become one of the most popular sports in the world, bringing intense rivalries, million-dollar cars, and expertly trained drivers. The motorsport is one of the only mixed-gender sports out there, giving men and women a chance to compete against each other. But there isn't always equal funding to bring them onto the track. That's where female race car drivers like Jamie Chadwick come in. She's now the third woman to win in Indy Next race, inspiring other girls to race themselves.
There's always stress. There's always adrenaline. There's always kind of nerves. There weren't really any women in the sport when I started, or not that I raced against, because I was the only girl more often than not. My name is Jamie Chadwick, and I am a racing driver for Andretti Global in Indy Next. Before I got into racing, I was described as quite a big tomboy. I had an older brother and very competitive with him. Everything he would do, I would want to do. As soon as he started in racing, it was quite a big decision, or obvious decision, for me to kind of follow him into it. And from there, yeah, I just fell in love with the sport.
Jamie Chadwick wins the first W Series race. Out of the final corner.
corner. Jamie Chadwick sees the checkered flag first and wins at Budapest. Jamie Chadwick wins the opening race of the W Series season. It's 7 wins in a row for Jamie Chadwick.
Beautiful morning here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
I'm very fortunate in Indy Next to have the opportunity that I have, and Andretti are a big reason for that. They brought me over and gave me the chance, but now we've got 2 women in the series. There's no reason why we can't have 7, 8 women in the series.
Back up front is Nolan Siegel, Jacob Abel, Miles Rowe, and Louis Foster. Thought Louis Foster might be a bit more aggressive in the start, but he decided to put back him behind the leaders now.
I went down the inside, stopped it on the apex, thinking he was going to get under me, and he just stayed, hung it on the outside. So then I gave him too much opportunity there. I should have just steamrolled it past him.
All right. Like you said, a lot of positives still, I think.
My ultimate goal is obviously Formula One, but there's 20 seats in Formula One, and it is one of the hardest sports in the world, in my opinion. So I'm under no illusions as to, what it takes to get to that point. But I strongly believe if I can get good results in Indy Next, ultimately I want to go to potentially IndyCar next. If I win every race this year, win every race next year, then there's no reason why I could be in Formula One. The accolades don't mean a huge amount. I don't care so much for being the first woman to do anything. I don't see that as being necessarily not a compliment, but like a positive thing. I see it as, if anything, being a negative thing, because really there is no reason why I should be the first woman to do all these things.
How accurate are these?
Sims?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's never going to be perfect, but at the same time, considering we don't get to drive this track until we really race there, it's pretty close. I think the sport definitely isn't the most accessible. It's an expensive sport to get into it. These cars are inherently designed for the average male driver, so actually as a smaller person, it's been a challenge to get strong enough to be fit enough to actually just drive the cars. My training has changed a lot as a result. I think one of the big misconceptions of our sport is that it's not physical, but it definitely is. The cars that we drive outside of Formula One, so in the junior series, we don't have power steering. They're inherently designed for men. They're all standard cars, so the steering wheel in my car usually would be the same as the steering wheel in every other car, but given my hands are smaller than, say, some of the boys, we've now designed it to be better for me.
Motorsport is one of the world's only mixed-gender sports. There are very few sports in the world where men and women compete on equal footing, so it has this massive opportunity that it is sort of missing. We found a range of barriers that have blocked the progress of women and girls in the sport. The primary one is the very small participation pool, so less than 10% of all female participants in motorsport are female. Largely, people come into the sport through karting, so you can take that up from a very young age before moving on to open-wheel racing. I think we're now seeing different initiatives for women in the sport. Formula One Academy, for example, which is an all-female racing series, was set up partly in recognition of the fact that women often have less opportunity to race. We found in our research is that girls really struggle to pick up the funding required, whether it's from sponsors or investors. We've just got too few Jamie Chadwicks, for example, for a sponsor or backer to really take that risk on the girl.
When I was kind of progressing through the sport, there was Claire Williams at the helm of Williams Racing that then took me on into being a young driver. And also Susie Wolff was actually testing in the Williams at that time. So I was lucky I had sort of role models of people, women visible in the sport.
I've been in motorsport over 35 years and the sport has changed. F1 Academy is a race series that's been made by Formula One to really help women to succeed in the sport.
It's Bianca Bustamante ahead of Jess Edgar.
Bustamante crosses the line to take her second win.
Coming from Philippines is quite tough to get into the sport.
Philippines is not known to have racing drivers. We don't even have the facility to cater to, Formula car racing. We don't have the track, the equipment. The structure of F1 Academy is built by a strong foundation because it's backed by women. Growing up, I've always raced against boys, and I always would feel sort of alone that I was always the only female, the only girl, and I always felt so left out. But the fact that I'm in a championship that encourages femininity, encourages you to be who you are as you are.
Oh, that is a squeeze at the apex of turn one. She's able to hold the position.
In my opinion, there is no reason why it's so male-dominated. It shouldn't be. It can be a sport that is really open to all. There's a lot of initiatives going on, but there isn't really anything tackling absolute grassroots level. So that's the bit that I wanted to try and kind of help where we could. You'll see there's so many different people that are involved. Like the driver gets the credit, he gets to stand on the podium, or they get to stand on the podium, but there's mechanics, there's engineers, there's the person that makes sure the pit stop, makes sure the wheels are on the car. Really it is trying to encourage as many young girls into that kind of first step into a go-kart, into the sport. And then from there, whoever wins it will get a bit of guidance and mentorship and also a bit of funding to the next step. So you've never done anything like this?
All of your helmets flipped up.
Everybody nice and slowly, okay?
Today's actually really cool because most of the girls that I've spoken to have never even watched racing, have no idea about it. So the fact that they can try this for the first time is really, really cool.
You have to see a young woman achieving something to think, maybe I can do that. I was one of those annoying little girls that was hugely competitive. I loved speed, I loved adrenaline. I got my first go-kart at 8, and that was, for me, the start of the journey.
Put your marker up.
16.
With what Jamie Chadwick is doing now, so setting up a whole initiative to get girls into grassroots and to help them to see that there's a ladder for them. We don't want women feeling that they have to do this, but I think they have naturally sort of, because they've experienced, to challenge themselves on the way up. We need more Jamie Chadwicks, though. We need another 10 or 20 of her.
You need to go far, you want to go faster, so you need to come back and do it again so you can go quicker. I've turned up to a few of these events and there's been young girls, and I felt like I've got imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, why they don't necessarily want to listen to me or hear from me. It's a bit tight. There you go. It takes one or two of those girls to come up to me and say if they're, inspired into the sport. How was it? Good. Good. And that's enough for me to kind of relax a little bit and think this is something I'm really proud to try and kind of wave the flag for. And like I said, if it's not me, there are so many great women in the sport that are equally pushing really hard, and I think that is going to make a difference down the line to try and encourage more and more young girls into it.
Ladies, rev your engines. Still much more to get to here on Prime. Coming up, the shocking images showing a Good Samaritan in Texas saving a woman from drowning after her car gets submerged. But next, exercising could become even more of a struggle now, as many affordable gyms announce they're shutting down. We take a look by the numbers.
There was a specific moment during our wedding. I looked at Jason, I looked at my children, and I realized this was real. That was my husband, and this was our family. We live in a very beautiful place, and sometimes the beauty masks what really is going on. Jason seemed happy. We all just thought the world of him.
This is her knight in shining armor.
Everything felt right. All of a sudden, I found this hidden folder. I opened it, and I don't think I can say it. I'm sorry. I just need a break.
She put her hand to her mouth and gasped. It's shocking, gut-wrenching.
I realized that my life will never be the same. Jason would kill me before he would let me tell anyone this part of him.
He is in so much freaking trouble.
My stomach just dropped. I remember just feeling like, what the hell? That was my dad. It did not feel real. It felt so shocking. Like, what is going on?
Never in a million years did I ever think Jason capable of something so horrific. What did I miss?
That's when that fire inside of me shifted to like a flame. I was like, it's on. I lured Jason to a public place. The whole police squad pulls up. I hear the most awful sound, like blood curdling, out of this world scream. And I realized it was coming out of me.
Betrayal is one of the hardest types of trauma to overcome.
Those letters and those apologies were to make him feel better. Everything that he said was a lie. How could he do this? He just really didn't think I had it in me to do something. So I did.
Betrayal, a Father's Secret, the all-new season, only on Hulu.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Friday morning, it's G-Easy. Good Morning America and you. Jumpstarting your summer weekend hot. Only on Good Morning America's Summer Concert Series. Sponsored by Wayfair.
Let's go. The ship is incredible. It feels like living in a science fiction movie.
We just saw what no one has seen before.
Wow, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, dead ahead! Tag on!
We are heading into the unknown.
Hammer, hammer, hammer. It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food.
It's all coming up on GMA 3.
You're gonna love it. We'll see you then.
GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons.
For everything you need to know.
I love that.
Me too.
Reporting from the New Year's celebration in Times Square, New York, I'm Alex Perche. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
No gain and more pain. Gym chains are feeling the post-pandemic burn. Here's a look at the industry's aches and pains by the numbers. Blink Fitness filed for bankruptcy this week after racking up $280 million in debt. The issue? A 9-month closure during the pandemic, followed by millions of dollars in upgrades to meet the latest demands. Demand is actually part of the problem, though. Back in 2022, Planet Fitness reported that 60% of their members didn't even visit the gym in a 30-day stretch. These days, one recent survey found 84% of regular exercisers are working out a minimum of 3 times a week. And 87% of Gen Zers say they hit the gym 3 or more times a week, stretching gym space to the limit. But while chains like Blink and Planet Fitness struggle, high-end gyms like Equinox seem to be booming, with revenue up 27% last year, focusing on those willing and able to pay for extra fluffy towels and special packages, like a $40,000 per year longevity-focused membership. And we have much more ahead here on Prime. Up next, we introduce you to Natalie. The scientists are calling a brand new species of dinosaur. We get an exclusive sneak peek before she makes her big debut. And we take a look into a popular chain's savings deal and how it could help entertain kids on a budget.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10th, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded to the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob.
Hello. Judd?
Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple of things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades.
What a disaster.
If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said,
the movie!
Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah.
Why did we take it as an offense?
Well,
As opposed to like
a brat.
Because we were young.
We were afraid we were brats, you know? Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
I crush on you back in the day.
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985, I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source. ABC News Live, honored with 8 Emmy nominations, more than any other streaming news network. And ABC News Live Prime with Linsey Davis, the first and only streaming show nominated for Best Outstanding Live News Program. This is ABC News Live.
Hi, I'm Andy. And I'm Sabrina. And we're moms, juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? Really love? Pop culture. So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Indicted, the latest in the police shooting of a pregnant shoplifting suspect caught on camera. A woman rescued from a submerged car, and a bitter dispute. Could it stop the believing for Journey fans? These stories and more in tonight's rundown.
Two Texas women are calling for a federal investigation after they say they were denied abortions while dealing with ectopic pregnancies. Kylie Thurman and Kelsey Norris de la Cruz filed complaints with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Both say they were denied necessary medical assistance at their hospitals for their ectopic pregnancies, which can be deadly if not properly treated. Starbucks has made a change at the top. Brian Niccol, the chairman and CEO at Chipotle, will take the helm at the coffee giant on September 9th. Outgoing CEO Laxman Narasimhan only had the job for a little over a year. Niccol helped nearly double Chipotle's revenue since taking over in 2018. Starbucks hopes he can rescue their own declining sales.
She having a fever.
Dramatic body cam video shows a child flag down an officer to save his mother from a submerged vehicle. Jonquetta Winbush suffered a seizure while driving and drove into a pond on July 24th. The video shows the rescue efforts to get her out of the vehicle to safety. Winbush is reportedly still in the ICU, but breathing on her own. An Ohio grand jury today indicted a police officer on murder and other charges in the death of a pregnant black woman last year. Blindon Township officer Connor Grubb is accused of shooting and killing 21-year-old Takaya Young. Grubb and another officer approached Young's vehicle after she was suspected of shoplifting and ordered her out of her car. When Young instead rolled forward, Grubb allegedly shot and killed her through her windshield. He is expected to be arraigned Wednesday.
Prices for summer fun climbing as quickly as your kid's favorite roller coaster. But now, Chuck E. Cheese hoping to entice some families with a subscription that opens up discounts. The monthly fees start at $7.99. Chuck E. Cheese struggling through COVID, declaring bankruptcy in 2021, now looking for a reboot to draw families back to their arcade-style restaurant.
Two members of the iconic rock band Journey are embroiled in a legal battle. Keyboardist Jonathan Cain, in a lawsuit, has accused lead guitarist Neil Schon of exorbitant spending, including private jet charters and personal expenses, which he says are impacting the company they helped form to oversee tour-related finances. Schoen fired back in a statement to ABC News, accusing Kane of creating a hostile work environment and calling the accusations false. Journey is currently on tour and not long ago recognized its 50th anniversary as a band.
Well, a couple paid off $50,000 in debt in less than 2 years. Now they're sharing tips on how others can do the same. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
After Deacon and Kim Hayes took their wedding vows in 2008, they soon decided to make a new financial commitment to each other, paying off their combined $52,000 in debt.
I think once we got married, we both realized we didn't want that stress in our lives and our marriage.
Their pledge? To pay off the full amount in 18 months. An ambitious target Kim, who's a teacher, says she was at first skeptical they could achieve.
He had done the math. He said it was possible.
Well, but there was definitely a lot of things that needed to happen to make that work.
That included intense discipline and taking on extra income streams.
I delivered pizzas at night. So it was kind of like, what can we do extra to kind of move the momentum even further faster?
Debt-free with 2 kids, the Hayes are now sharing their secrets to climbing back into the black.
It took a little while for it to sink in because I was so used to making those payments, you know, and you're like, oh, wow, our bank account is actually going up.
First up, take stock of exactly where your money's going. Write down your expenses, income, and debt payments per month. Deacon recommends tracking it all in a spreadsheet.
And what we found is there were some categories that we were overspending on a lot. And we really wanted to figure out, like, how could we have boundaries around that?
Next, put limits on expenses like groceries or entertainment that can fluctuate from month to month. The Hayes put cash in envelopes with the allotted budget for each category. And finally, call up providers for bills like car insurance or internet to see if they can offer you a better deal. That strategy saved the Hayes hundreds of dollars every month.
Very clever. Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze. So what is 75 feet long, green, and older than a T-Rex? Well, meet Natalie, believed to be a whole new species of dinosaur. Scientists have spent the past decade painstakingly putting this 150 million-year-old giant back together. And National Geographic cameras documented the entire process.
Well, this is a 150-million-year-old dinosaur, right? So I think you expect not to be in perfect shape, and it isn't. If you look at some of the tail vertebrae here, you're going to see that some of the spines are a little twisted, they're a little broken, they're somewhat deformed.
Wow, and I'm joined now by Dr. Nate Smith. He's the director of the Dinosaur Institute at the LA Natural History Museum, where Natalie will soon be on display. Dr. Smith, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I love that you're living the dream, because every kid dreams of being a paleontologist. Here you are, studying dinosaurs. But let's start with her color. Why is she green?
Yeah, the color comes from a lot of the mineralogy, and those are much more common. What makes Natalie that green color is a mineral called selatonite, which got concentrated kind of after it was originally fossilized, and that mineral replaced some of the minerals that were already there.
And she was found in the Badlands, right, of Utah?
Yeah, so the southeast corner of Utah, near a tiny little town called Bluff, a really scenic and beautiful part of the United States.
And this is like breaking news in the world of dinosaurs. You're calling this a whole new species. Tell us more about that.
Right, so some of our researchers are in the process of working that up right now. That kind of takes time when you're going to erect and name a new species. But it looks like nothing kind of quite fit with the previously described large, long-necked sauropods from this area. And it kind of is what we might call an in-betweener from a couple of other species. So that's made the find even more exciting.
Take us through the process of excavation to creating this exhibit.
Yeah, it's a colossal task, as you can imagine. And in some ways, the funnest part of it is the easiest, you know, finding and starting to excavate those bones. What we give a lot of credit to is our technicians and preparator staff here at the Dinosaur Institute and the NHM, because it takes hundreds and thousands of hours to actually excavate these bones from the surrounding rock or matrix. And that's really the limiting factor for us to bring these giants back to life.
And I envision you in an Indiana Jones hat out there excavating away. And I understand that Natalie will go on display this fall. And you had folks vote on her name, and she is Nat Ali for a reason.
That's right. It's Natalie with a G. And that's a shout out to in the early days of the work at this quarry. The field crew was just relentlessly pestered by flying gnats and biting gnats.
Once she goes on display, what will visitors to your august museum get to do when they see the new exhibit?
Well, Natalie is very much a community dinosaur, right? It was excavated by a community of folks over, more than a dozen years, including students, volunteers, researchers from around the world. It's from BLM land, so it kind of belongs to the community, and it'll be part of a new display in our new NHM Commons Community Center. So everyone will be able to come and see Natalie for free and learn the story about basically what we call a ground to mount. So everything that took place from finding, excavating, preparing, studying, and then ultimately putting on display this giant dinosaur.
There's another dinosaur fossil that will not be on public display because recently Apex, the largest stegosaurus ever found, was sold to a private collector for nearly $45 million. So how do you feel about these rare specimens being out of public view and out of reach for researchers?
It's a challenge, and there's a lot of controversy and debate over it. One of the things a lot of us in the paleontological community are hopeful for is that the bidder that purchased Apex has a long history of working with natural history museums and putting those specimens on display and doing a lot of paleontological and museum educational outreach. So our hope is that Apex won't be lost forever to the public and to researchers.
And of course, we all hope that everyone will swarm to go see Natalie. Thank you, Dr. Smith, so much for joining us.
Thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to having everybody out here in the fall.
And we know that Natalie will make her public debut at the LA Natural History Museum this November. Thanks again. And that's our show for tonight. I'm Juju Chang. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's stories. Thanks for streaming with us. And coming up in the next hour, Ernesto gaining strength in the Caribbean. We're tracking the storm's path tonight. And authorities in Brazil begin to identify the passengers who died in that tragic plane crash. The latest details on the investigation.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
She went to meet her mom at a bowling church league, but she never makes it into the bowling alley. Something terrible had happened to her. Melissa was a good kid. She had big dreams for her life.
And then she disappears.
My gut knew this was not a young girl who just took off and ran away.
New information into the disappearance of Melissa Witt. Pools of blood were found by detectives.
We were sick to our stomachs.
I just love to have her back more than anything in the world.
It is a heart-wrenching day for the family of 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
Police found the body in the Ozark National Forest.
You had several suspects.
All these kinds of leads. Who could have done this?
You have a known serial killer in your area.
Could he be involved?
Find the evidence, find the DNA profile.
We had to find that person. Time was of the essence.
Every blood spot matters. Every piece of DNA matters. You're looking for that game-changing piece.
We're actually finding key evidence that could have slipped through the cracks.
One of our guys says, you're going to see this.
And there's another one.
What could be underneath these headstones?
Her last hours on this earth were probably the most horrific a person can experience.
This beautiful young girl. Police will find out what happened.
At wit's end, the hunt for a killer. Now streaming only on Hulu.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Shohei Ohtani.
legends of the game. But now the list of greats redefined. From ABC News, Reclaim the Forgotten League, a side of the story of baseball you have never heard before like this. The award-winning podcast is back. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or scan the QR codes you see here.
Here's to Good Mornings in America. Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness, joyous surprises, and so much fun. Start your day with Good Morning America's Ray of Sunshine, highlighting the best of America. Get ready to smile and put the good into your morning, America.
You know what will make the morning better? A little ray of sunshine.
They both want to be your next president. And starting Monday, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz make their case for the White House. See it all streaming on ABC News Live. All day, nonstop coverage. David Muir and Linsey Davis reporting live at the Democratic National Convention. Streaming free on ABC News Live.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Juju Chang in for Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We've got a lot of news to get to this evening, including the storm now prompting hurricane watches throughout the Caribbean, including the Virgin Islands, where it's expected to intensify as heavy rain, strong winds, and in some cases, coastal flooding hits the region. Plus, the developments from the campaign trail as Tim Walz hits the road for the first time solo. And the several large protests across cities in India after doctors' demonstrations spread nationwide following the rape and murder of a trainee. But we begin tonight with Ernesto gaining strength in the Caribbean and just a matter of hours until it reaches Puerto Rico. At this hour, Ernesto is moving with sustained winds of 60 miles an hour. The governor there has activated the National Guard and warned everyone to shelter inside until the storm passes. And tonight already there are major concerns for Puerto Rico's power grid. It's been almost 7 years since Category 5 Hurricane Maria ravaged the island, and rebuilding is still very much a work in progress. So what kind of hit will Puerto Rico take, and will Ernesto impact the U.S. mainland? And we begin with ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z with the timing and the track of the storm. Hey, Ginger.
Hey there, Juju. Max sustained winds with this thing's already 60 miles per hour. So we do see a hurricane by early tomorrow, but it's going to all move really quickly. Through the Caribbean, 3 to 6 inches of rain, locally up to 10 inches. It's going to pass north and east of the east side of Puerto Rico. So the heaviest rain will still come through, and they've got mountains there, so that could cause flash flooding. It'll become that hurricane, and then it will turn more northerly. We're going to watch it still kind of moving quickly toward Bermuda for the weekend. Looks like Saturday would be the biggest impacts there, and it will stay away from U.S. mainland. If I were in Nova Scotia, I'd watch it carefully, but here it's going to be all about the high surf and the rip current risk through the weekend and early next week. That storm is 10 days, or tropical storm Ernesto, formed 10 days ahead of schedule from when we usually see our 5th named storm of the season, Juju.
And Ginger, the National Hurricane Center just updated their forecast last week of the number of storms this season expected to be well above average. Can you give us a sense of why that is?
Yes, and they've had that out, but they updated it and basically kept it the same, saying we're going to have a hyperactive season. We've known this, number one, because we're coming off the hangover of an El Nino. The water temperatures around the world, but in the Atlantic too, are well above average. But also coming off of an El Nino into this neutral phase and going into La Nina that's expected in the mid-month, that is a big factor when it comes to hurricanes because it cuts down on wind shear. Wind shear kind of fights like a ninja. It will fight off the top levels of a hurricane. It'll stop development and stop its forward motion. We don't have as much of that. And so it looks like really good conditions for hurricanes to not only develop, but to sustain themselves across the Atlantic, Juju. So we do expect an extremely busy time. And climatologically, that's the time we're in. We're in the next 5-6 weeks of the busiest, usually in the season.
A busy season for you, Ginger Z. Thanks so much. And we turn now to the race for the White House. Just 84 days to Election Day. Tonight, Vice President Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, responding to attacks from the Trump campaign, defending his military record and taking aim at President Trump. For his conversation with Elon Musk and what Trump said about workers tonight, the UAW is hitting Trump and Musk with federal labor charges. Following all of it, ABC's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, in his first solo appearance on the campaign trail, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz defending himself against Republican attacks on his 24-year record of military service.
I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country.
Walz spent 24 years in the Minnesota National Guard while teaching and coaching football, leaving to run for Congress months before his unit deployed to Iraq. In the House, he was the top Democrat on the Veteran Affairs Committee. But since joining the Harris ticket, he has been under relentless attack from Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who has seized on this moment.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Vance accusing Walz of lying about his service.
And he has not spent a day in a combat zone. What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Today, Walz pushing back at Vance, who served as a Marine in Iraq himself, but didn't see active fighting.
And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
Walz today addressing the convention of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, saying Trump and Vance aren't looking out for union workers.
The only thing those two guys knows about working people is how to work to take advantage of them. That's what they know about it.
Seizing on Trump's comments about striking workers in a conversation with billionaire Elon Musk on his social media platform X. Trump praising Musk for not giving in to workers' demands.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
Tonight, the head of the United Auto Workers Union out with a blistering statement, insisting when we say Donald Trump is a scab, this is what we mean. When we say Trump stands against everything our union stands for, this is what we mean. Walz echoing those words.
That he called him a scab, just to be clear. That's not name calling, it's an observation and fact, just to be clear. So
the UAW has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, noting she has walked the picket line with striking workers. And tonight, the union filing federal labor charges against Trump and Musk with the National Labor Relations Board, saying they advocated for the illegal firing of striking workers.
In other political news, abortion access will officially be on the ballot in Arizona this November. The Arizona Secretary of State's office said Monday that it had certified over 500,000 signatures, far above the required number to put the question before voters. If passed, the measure would establish a fundamental right to an abortion in the state of Arizona, protecting access to abortion up until viability, which is generally around 24 weeks. Arizona's current law bans abortions after 15 weeks, and it includes exceptions in cases of medical emergencies. Well, Israel is on high alert tonight, bracing for an attack from Iran and its allies that could come at any time. The U.S. is sending senior advisors to the region to discuss security and urge Israel and Hamas to negotiate. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burridge is in Tel Aviv tonight.
Tonight, Israel on high alert, trading attacks with Hezbollah across the Israeli-Lebanese border as they brace for what U.S. officials say could be a more significant Iranian-led attack on Israel this week. Tonight, President Biden asked whether Iran might hold off its attack if a Gaza ceasefire deal is possible.
That's my expectation, and we'll see.
Today, Biden's Middle East envoy, Brett McGurk, rushing to Egypt in an 11th hour push to get Hamas and Israel to attend talks in just 2 days' time. But a U.S. official saying the odds of that happening appear to be low after Hamas indicated it would only accept a previous framework deal on the table months ago. And tonight, Iran rejecting the notion it shouldn't retaliate for the assassination of a top Hamas leader in Tehran, calling a plea from the UK, France and Germany excessive. If talks were to break down, the White House saying they're ready to defend Israel. The Pentagon deploying 2 aircraft carrier strike groups and a missile-guided submarine into the Middle East.
The bottom line is, I'm not going to speculate or try to guess when they might attack, other than to say we need to take it seriously, and we are doing that. And so we will be prepared and are prepared.
And Tom Sufi-Burridge joins us now from Tel Aviv. And Tom, against this tense backdrop, what's the latest on U.S. weapons sales to Israel?
Yeah, Juju, the State Department tonight approving the sale of $20 billion worth of weaponry to Israel, including advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, which could be used to thwart a potential aerial assault. Juju?
Tom, the drama continues. Thank you. And now to the war in Ukraine. President Zelensky is saying Ukraine continues to advance inside Russian territory and is now controlling 74 Russian settlements. And tonight, new images believed to show Russian troops now being held as prisoners. Here's ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell.
Tonight, Ukraine pushing deeper into Russia, taking prisoners on the way, here bound and blindfolded. Some Russian soldiers seen surrendering by the roadside as Ukraine sends more troops across the border. The Kremlin caught totally off guard by the audacious operation, but now saying it's stopped a further advance. The Ukrainian offensive does appear to have slowed, but not stopped. Tonight, President Zelensky saying despite the difficult and intense battles, our forces continue to advance and our state's exchange fund is growing, referring to plans to capture Russian land and trade it for Ukrainian territory. Zelensky claiming more than 70 settlements now under their control, but some of these likely very small. And tonight, President Biden weighing in for the first time on the Ukrainian assault.
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin.
And we go to Greece now, where wind-driven wildfires threaten homes in the suburbs of Athens. Some 30,000 people have now fled their homes as crews from several nations help battle the flames. ABC's Britt Clement is there.
Tonight, one person is dead and tens of thousands have been forced to flee. Greece's largest wildfire this year raging over the last 48 hours, just miles from the centre of Athens. The fires breaking out Sunday, fierce winds quickly fanning the flames up to 80 feet high.
Firefighters now working to put out the flames in this building in this Athens suburb. You can feel the fire, the heat radiating from this building. It stings the eyes and there's smoke that's blanketed the area.
Harrowing video showing police carrying the elderly to safety. Several hospitals had to be evacuated.
You can see the impact of these fires in this residential area, scorching homes, destroying buildings in one of the hottest, driest summers on record.
Authorities finding the body of a woman inside a building who they believe was trapped by the fire. Smoke looming over those famed archaeological sites that draw in so many tourists each year, like this group from Boulder, Colorado.
We found out about the fires when we landed.
It was definitely scary landing here and that being like the first thing that we saw.
And we have still much more to get to ahead. Coming up, from New Girl to Fargo, we sit down with the newly Emmy-nominated actor Lamorne Morris to hear all about what's next for him in Hollywood. But next, we're following a doctor's protest in India that halted hospital services all across the country.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions.
Operational nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you. Ismail? David.
David.
Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
I watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Hey, good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Money. Are you ready? They are ready.
Covering the biggest events in the country right now.
There's a lot going on here this morning.
It's always a good time.
That's what the show's about.
That's good.
Really good.
Very good.
Coming in hot. Jimmy, coming in hot.
It's far from elementary. Good morning, America. I'm not going to try to strut like Michael or anything.
I have known George a long, long time.
Have you ever gotten him to dance?
Look at that face.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in. I'm in.
I'm in too. I'll be here.
I am here and so happy.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'm in.
That tells you something when Snoop Dogg's in. Michael, George, where?
I'm Medea Villarreal in Houston, Texas. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming with ABC News Live.
And we're tracking several headlines around the world tonight. Hospital services were disrupted in several Indian cities after a doctor's protest spread nationwide following the rape and murder of a trainee medic in the city of Calcutta. The 31-year-old doctor was found dead on Friday. A police volunteer was subsequently arrested in connection with the crime. India's federal police are handling the case, indicating that it is a national priority. Forensics experts at Sao Paulo's morgue have identified 35 of the 62 people who died in that tragic plane crash. A Brazilian Air Force transport plane flew the remains of 3 passengers back to Cascavel from where the aircraft departed in southern Brazil, and will continue to transport the bodies as they are released from the morgue. Youth delegations participated in the Youth G20 or Y20 in Rio de Janeiro to discuss their concerns on the climate crisis. The motto of the summit is Youth Leading the Construction of a Fair World and a Sustainable Planet. Concerns such as climate refugees, inequality, and food security were addressed by participants. In season 5 of FX's crime anthology Fargo, North Dakota State Trooper Whitley Farr stands as a beacon of reliability, fiercely protecting a Minnesota housewife from her abusive ex-husband. And his portrayal has earned actor Lamorne Morris his first Emmy nomination. Let's take a look.
Well, Mr. Graves, we've got one state trooper dead, with the suspect on the loose considered armed and dangerous, so there is considerable exigency to the circumstances. Hey, Mrs. Lyon, it's good to see you again, Mrs. Lyon.
That's not accurate.
It draws me in. Lamorne Morris, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You seem very earnest in this. How do you wrap your head around your first Emmy nomination?
You can't. You can't. I've been running around so much. I feel like at the end of it all, at the end of the ceremony, I'll get a chance to reflect back on it. But it's been surreal so far.
Well, you play this deputy, almost like a Dudley Do-Right, good guy. How do you play such an earnest good guy, but also like give him complexity?
Well, you got to pull from different parts of your life, you know what I mean? Obviously, the woman he's trying to protect is going through a lot. He's been through a lot. So you have to just intertangle the two, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff happening in the world. He is a protector, an officer of the law. So you just add a little bit of that to it, and you should be good.
You have great co-stars to play against. It must be fun.
Oh, a lot of fun. Juno Temple is one of the greats. John Hamm, one of the greats. Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, this cast is an all-star cast. It was weird. It was weird to be a part of it, but fun. You know?
And here you are with the Emmy nom. Now, you were watching as a fan season 3 when you got the call to star in this season. What was that like?
Insane. I mean, as an actor, you know, it's a dream come true to be a part of something that's in general, but let alone something that you admire, and a group of filmmakers such as these filmmakers for this particular show. It's all you want as a performer.
It's amazing. And you're also going to star in the SNL movie. You're going to play Garrett Morris. You and he share a last name, but
we do.
He's clearly iconic in that world. What's it like for you to step into those shoes, A, and B, what similarities would you say you have in his career?
Well, it was great. You know what I mean? He comes from a very obstacle-ridden background. You know what I mean? Where the odds were stacked against him. And when he entered into this playing field, he was a man of many talents, and he was trying to figure out exactly how he fit into the SNL shoes. And he made it work. You know what I mean? Now that we know SNL is a show where you can sing, dance, act, perform, all of those things he knew how to do. And it had never been done before in one particular show. And so he kind of, he paved the way for folks like me to be able to do it.
Amazing. And you are a comedian as well, and you have a lot of similarities. You grew up on the south side of Chicago.
I did. Yep, I did, yeah. You know what I mean? We have the same last name, and I also like to, I pretend that he was my father when I was a kid growing up. I would watch him on TV, and I would tell all the kids, like, that's my daddy, everybody. That's my daddy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I know that another goal of yours was to appear on a talk show, and then you got to guest host Kimmel.
did, yeah.
How was that?
Oh my gosh, it was insane.
You're having a year.
It was crazy. You know, I started off hosting. I was a host at BET and then Cartoon Network, and then full circle, here I am hosting the Kimmel Show. I just need to host SNL. If you're looking out there, I auditioned for you. I auditioned and you turned me down, and damn it, I'm in the movie now, so please allow me to host.
And so when do you get a chance to sleep? Because you're also doing Netflix's season 2 of Unstable.
Yes.
Tell us about that. But you're also doing a podcast.
Yes, I have 2 podcasts. I have 2 podcasts. One's called The Mess Around with Hannah Simone and myself, where we recap all of our old New Girl episodes, something that's really cool for the fans. Another one is called The Morning After.
Very clever. I see what you did there.
Yeah. It's myself and my buddy Kyle Chevron, another comedian, and we just talk crap. We just interview different folks, athletes, actors, musicians, magicians, it doesn't matter. And that's my favorite way to kind of express myself. You know, it's not a script. We just kind of show up and the fans get a real insight of who I am as a person.
And you also have an upcoming Spider Noir series.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I can't tell you too much because the Marvel Universe, well, they've threatened to kill me if I did. And,
is that part of the contract?
Yeah. It says murder. I'm like, oh boy. But it's starring, I'm starring opposite Nick Cage in it, which is another dream come true. When you're a performer, you just dream about working with folks like that, folks that you admire. And yeah, I get a chance to work alongside of him, so.
Well, it's such a pleasure, Lamorne Morris, to chat with you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And all episodes of the 5th season of FX's Fargo are available to binge right now. Stream on Hulu. I want one of those dolls. And coming up next, the duo pushing the limits of dance pop music. Louis the Child is here on set for a preview of their 2nd album, The Sun Comes Up. Stay with us.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas,
Edinburgh, Scotland, from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw.
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives.
The magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi.
Santa Fe, New Mexico. Raleigh, North Carolina.
The U.S. Capitol.
Mayfield, Kentucky.
Minneapolis.
Mexico. Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen, giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live. Streaming free right now wherever you stream your news. Now streaming on Hulu.
I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi, the new special, what you have not yet seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu. ABC News, honored for excellence with 40 Emmy nominations. Mornings, evenings, late night, weekends, streaming 24/7. 40 Emmy nominations. Thank you for making ABC News America's #1 news.
What's good to watch, read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's all right here. GMA Life. All the exclusive and buzziest celebrity good stuff. Deals and steals with amazing savings and the coolest lifestyle tips from Good Morning America.
I love that so much.
GMA Life. Streaming weekends on ABC News Live. Your weekend just got a little better with GMA Life.
When it matters most, America turns to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight.
Through the use of different rhythms, tempos, and even across genres, Chicago duo Louis the Child are continuing to push the boundaries of dance pop in their upcoming sophomore album, The Sun Comes Up. And duo members Robbie Haldren and Freddie Kennett are set to release it next month. Take a listen.
Make you feel so nice. You've got the kind of love that I can't resist. And I think we deserve another try at this.
And joining us now is Louis the Child, Robbie and Freddie. Thanks for joining us.
What's up?
Now, in this beautiful cloud video, you collaborated with Madian.
Yeah.
And when you were kids, you actually met at a Madian concert. Is that right?
We did, yeah. The first time that we technically ever met each other was at his concert at the Bottom Lounge in Chicago.
And you went to high school together. What's it like then collabing with him now, all these years later?
It's cool. I mean, he's someone that, like, he brought us on our first tour back in the day, and, like, someone that we've become friends with over the years. So it was really natural process and, like, kind of, like, just easy to write.
And that was the song that's in the upcoming album. And it has, like, 13 tracks total, right? And one of them, I'm told, was inspired, it's sort of a riff off of an Aretha Franklin song. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we sampled an Aretha song on our song How High.
And what was that process like for you guys?
It's fun. We like to sample and just kind of take different parts and create like a new thing out of different things. But we're huge Aretha fans, and so it's really cool to be able to use it, because you never know if they'll be like, no, you can't use the sample and whatnot. But we made it work, and it's a lot of fun to play live, and we love that song.
And you've been collabing together since 2013, when you were literally in high school. I get the sense that your music reflects your friendship.
I guess. I don't know. It does have this still, like, very youthful, fun energy to it, and I don't know. We're always joking and being goofy in the studio, and, like, I don't know. It hasn't changed that much since we started, like, our joy in making music.
You collabed with a bunch of different artists. How do you know who to pitch to? Who do you want next? Whose voice do you want on your tracks?
We kind of just work with a lot of different people and pick our best or our favorite songs that we've made. And we're kind of, when we're in like a album creation mode, we'll just get a bunch of sessions and work with people we've worked with before, work with people we haven't worked with before, and pick our favorite songs that we've made.
What's it like? I mean, I know that you have a Vegas residency that you're currently in. What's it like playing off the energy of the crowd when you're in the midst of a performance?
So, like, playing off the energy.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, you have an idea for what's going to go well, and then you look at the crowd and see how they're reacting, and then if they're liking it, then you're like, okay, cool, they like this vibe. Let's maybe play more of these tonight, or something like that.
And what about, I've seen drone shots of your concerts. I mean, you have thousands of people jumping and dancing and exciting. Millions, bajillions, right?
Yeah,
right.
Trillions, bajillions at the last one.
But it must be crazy to stand up on stage and get people to jump like that, literally.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts, like, when you really think about it. And you feel this, as weird as it sounds, this connection with the collective amount of people that are there. Even if it's tens of thousands of people, like, you feel it, this connection to them, and it's in the air that you're all, like, on the same wavelength and all in the same vibe together.
Well, clearly they vibe with you too. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And good luck on the tour.
Thank you.
Enjoy, okay. And you can listen to Louis the Child's upcoming album, The Sun Comes Up, next month. And that's our show for tonight. I'm Juju Chang. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. And of course, you can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy